billion naira needed to achieve net zero, says the federal government. Asia Pacific markets rise on cooler inflation print ahead of Fed rate decision. Plus, oil prices slip on surprise build in U.S. crude stocks. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. It is time to talk business. I will start by telling you that Senate is calling on the Central Bank of Nigeria to consider the adjustment of its new cash withdrawal limit. This is sequel to the consideration of the report of Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions, which interacted with the newly reappointed deputy governors of the Apex Bank during their screening. The report, however, noted that the Senate will continue to carry out efficient oversight of the bank on the adjustment. Meanwhile, Senate has confirmed the appointment of Aisha Ahmad and Edward Adamu for appointments as deputy governors of Central Bank of Nigeria for a second and final term. And following claims by some individuals accusing the federal government of stamp duty funds, the presidency has put the facts straight. Statement by presidential spokesman Garba Shehu notes that President Muhammadu Buhari came into office in 2015 to find that a law which stipulated for the collection of a token on banking transactions existed but was not being correctly implemented, resulting to government losing more than 20 trillion naira to the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System (NIBSS) between 2013 to 2016. According to investigation by a non-governmental organization, who also claimed that the said sum could be recovered and paid back into government coffers. The consultant asked to be paid a professional fee of 7.5% and were placed under the supervision of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF. Following the lack of progress in the promised recovery, the late Chief of Staff to the President, Abakari, wrote on March 8, 2018, to the SGF conveying a presidential directive that following the lack of progress and several expressed concerns received, the activities of the consultant be discontinued. In the aftermath of this dismissal, the consultant sued the government but lost in court. Arising from the outcome of the litigation and the well-known controversy on the legally responsible agent for collecting this levy, the administration went to the National Assembly and got an amendment to the law and removed NIPOST from the duty of its collection. Lately, the consultant returned to the government through Honorable Mahmoud Gudaji Kazaure with a plan to track and so-called lost stamp duties with the erstwhile consultant as chairman and Honorable Gudaji as secretary. The statement adds that President Muhammadu Buhari has not completely ignored these matters, as the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, is working with a committee to reconcile, recover, and transfer all stamp duties into stamp duties central account. And from there, President Muhammadu Buhari has declared Nigeria's intention to completely eliminate the use of petrol and diesel generators by 2060 as part of its multi-pronged energy transition plan aimed at achieving energy security and net zero emissions. A $10 billion investment, he however said, is needed per annum towards achieving the objectives and made a strong case for technical and financial support from the United States. This was at a high-level session on supporting conservation, climate adaptation and energy transition as part of U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit in Washington, D.C. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
With the theme, Building Our Green Future Together, the session attended by African and U.S. leaders as well as key stakeholders provided a forum for showcasing shared efforts towards conserving and restoring Africa's ecosystems as well as rich natural resources. Discussions also centered on diversifying the continent's energy matrix, realizing energy security goals, and building sustainable supply chains.
Africa will be at the center of the clean energy transition. Its renewable energy potential is second to none. It's home to roughly a third of all critical minerals essential to the technology that will power the clean energy economy. But with nearly half of sub-Saharan Africa's population lacking reliable access to electricity, and the population set to grow to more than 2 billion people by 2050, how that transition is made will be decisive in shaping our future climate. The United States will work closely with African countries as they determine how best to meet their specific energy needs.
President Muhammadu Buhari, who addressed participants at the closed session, takes pride in the fact that Nigeria is the first African country to develop a detailed energy transition plan towards tackling both energy poverty and climate change, as well as delivering net zero emissions by 2060. Already, he said, the country has embarked on several reforms and unveiled impactful projects aimed at generating 30 gigawatts of electricity by 2030, with renewable energy contributing 30% of the energy mix. Delivering the energy transition plan, the president said, requires $1.9 trillion spending up to 2060, which translates to $10 billion per annum. He therefore made a case for Nigeria to be included in the G7 climate partnership list for the co-creation of just energy transition. President Buhari also seeks the support of the United States for Nigeria's full participation in the global carbon markets, as well as developing innovative business models and integrating renewables efficiently into the national grid. This, the president said, is a time like none other to unlock the development potentials of Nigeria and transform the lives of millions of people by tapping into the potential returns in the yet to be fully optimized Nigeria's enormous market. From Washington, D.C., Adamu Sambu.
And the usual end-of-year festivities are around the corner, and December is often regarded as dirty December as a result of the harsh weather and the traditional fuel scarcity. Though the fuel scarcity this time around seemed to have come too early and lingered for long, but for the 48-hour ultimatum by the security agencies, it seemed very effective as queues are beginning to disappear. And on the conversation today is Billy Gillis-Harry, a stakeholder in the petroleum sector. Mr. Billy, you're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you.
Good. Doctor, you will agree with me that the fuel queues haven't lingered for long, are beginning to disappear. My question is, why the queues in the first place? Is it the usual December thing or festivities thing?
Well, I don't think that is the reason. The reason is supply processes being encumbered by different circumstances, for which, to my knowledge, the NNPC has risen up gallantly to address.
What was it like before now? Why did we have this supply disruptions? Yes, before now we've had this scarcity as a result of disruptions from the Russia-Ukraine war, where vessels could not pass through the Black Sea and some other hitches that led to such scarcity. But that was resolved just when we were enjoying good supply, where a motorist could just drive into any fuel station and get the commodity and drive out. The scarcity came back. Then we had promises, okay, this is going to be resolved. Then we had the flood around Lokoja in Kogi State, which also disrupted supply from Lagos to this axis. That was also resolved, and we had this supply. But yet we went back to this scarcity. So in reality, what are these disruptions, these supply disruptions, and is
Well,
this
the
solution
discussions
now going
are
to last?
very, very clear. Um, you know that we are not producing any PMS in country today, for which we, as an association, Petron, emphatically request that the government and NNPC do take very strict and efficient measures to ensure that our refineries are working. We are dependent on imported PMS and even imported diesel, even imported kerosene. So shipping processes, the logistics of shipping has been one of the major issues to our knowledge. When products arrive, they arrive in large carriers that do not have the batting, that we do not have the batting facilities in Nigeria. This time, some of these large carriers can only bat in Lagos. And even when they get in there, they need daughter vessels, smaller vessels, which should be able to do the shipment. However, the war in Ukraine and Russia is impacting very, terribly on all aspects of shipping. Right now, small vessels are very difficult to come by. The cost is getting more expensive. And of course, that is one of the major issues. Otherwise, NNPC has assured us that they have at least over 1.9 billion liters of petroleum PMS that is already with them, but they are not in country because they are still in the sea, and they have to be transported. They have to be brought in back. So, to our knowledge, this could be the reason, and because these smaller vessels are beginning to pop up for some very efficient service delivery. That's why today we can see some of these petroleum products that are coming on board, and retail outlets are getting wet and serving the Nigerian public.
Okay, talking about the system getting wet and serving the public, what happens to our storage system? Do we have enough reserves to say we could fall back to? Or when we have these disruptions, we have to wait for the ease of transporting these commodities before we can actually say the days of scarcity are gone?
Well, we are an association that is hired to serve Nigeria, and then also to make sure that we keep our services efficient. Our focus in Petron is efficient service delivery, petroleum product, supplies. What has happened with storage is purely an internal issue of NNPC. I'm not able to address that, but what I can tell you is that we have done our investigations, and we can confirm that NNPC indeed are doing what is required of them to make sure that they are bringing in petrol PMS to deliver to us, and that's where we're going to. And I believe with that, we will have answers to that.
Okay, as it is now, what in your words is the way to go? And particularly, I know your association recently launched a technology where it's not just enough to load this commodity on trucks, but also tracking to ensure that they get to the destinations they are meant to go. They actually delivered there. What's the progress so far?
Well, we have advanced very well on the use of that technology. It's called the 3P, which is being run by Petroleum Quality Assurance and Quality Control Department of Petron. It's working well. Our members who have subscribed to this so far have attested to its efficiency, and we are hoping, that down the years, the whole of the entire, value chain will depend and use our 3P system to ensure that petroleum product received is correct and the quality is as approved by NMDPRA, that is the regulator in the industry.
I will look forward to steady supply of this commodity, talking about the country getting wet with products. Are we supposed to be looking out for any alternatives to this to power our vehicles?
Well, yes, I think we should also look at the alternative of using CNG and gas, to fire our engines. The federal government started the gas project, which Petron is very much, happy about. We are giving the government quite a lot of reasons to be able to work with us. Bureaucratic processes have shut down access to fund, but that has not stopped us. We are looking towards private sectors funding and partnership, and I think we've gotten quite a few that are interested in utilizing our retail outlets as trial centers, conversion centers, and also stations where we can easily, be able to acquire CNG gas to be able to fire our automobiles, especially our tankers that are so heavily dependent on DPR. So that's ongoing, and we believe that the result will soon come up.
Okay, away from gas, still talking about oil, where oil production is said to have improved in the month of November to 1.186 million barrels per day. What do you make of it vis-a-vis the discovery of oil in the Kolmani rivers of Gombe and Bauchi states? Are there lessons to learn also from the Niger Delta experience in terms of managing such a huge resource?
Well, I think there's quite a lot to learn, and that's the concern I have with Nigeria. We seem to wait until there's problem, then we run around to do a fire brigade solution provision. The issues that have bedeviled the Niger Delta has been pollution, lack of economic empowerment, and strictly with the finding of oil in the Bauchi, area of Nigeria. I think that lessons of working very closely with communities, working very efficiently with the stakeholders in those communities will do a lot to help in making sure that there is no disruption in crude oil production when crude oil is discovered in commercial quantity in those new fields.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Billy Gillis Harry, for sharing your thoughts with us at this particular point in time. We'll get to contact you for more on this to ensure that Nigeria is wet with petroleum products. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Nigerians.
Good. Moving on, still talking about energy, oil prices fell in early trade on Wednesday after industry data showed a big build in U.S. crude inventories rather than the decline forecast by analysts, reinforcing fears about weakening demand even as supply tightens. CNBC reports that U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell 0.4% to $75.09, appearing a 3% gain from the previous session. Brent crude futures dropped 0.5% at $80.30 per barrel. Well, it's now time to take a trip to the commodities market. And it's a positive trading day on the Nigerian equities market as the NGX All-Share Index appreciated to 48,988.07 basis points. Market capitalization also increased to 26.682 trillion naira. Investors exchanged 88 million shares valued at 1.675 billion naira in 2,832 deals. Shares in the financial industry were the most active for the day. Well, let's join Bosede Abel for updates on the markets in the global scene.
Hello and welcome. It's the Global Market Review. Global market pointed downward this Wednesday, although the latest U.S. inflation showed that consumer prices rose less than expected in November, signaling that inflationary pressures could be starting to ease. U.S. stock futures were little changed Wednesday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dipped 6 points. S&P 500 0.04% and Nasdaq Composite also dipped 0.07%. European stocks slipped as global markets digested new inflation readings and looked ahead to the U.S. Federal Reserve's monetary policy decision. DAX was 0.6% lower, FTSE 0.40% lower, and CAC 40 also dipped 0.56%. Asia markets traded higher after stocks on Wall Street saw a second day of gains on an inflation print that came in cooler than expected. The Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong topped 0.1% at 3,176.53. The Shanghai Composites appreciated 0.39% at 19,673.45, and the Nikkei also appreciated 0.72% across 28,156.21. Most Africa markets recorded heavy losses on Wednesday. Namibia's overall index struggled to maintain marginal gains at 0.08%, while other stocks are red, with South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 leading losses at 1.60%. That's the global market update. I am Bosede Abel.
Thank you, Bosede. Let's now see how much the Naira is exchanging for other currencies at the CBN official rate. That wraps Business Express for today. Remember to keep in touch with us, so do send in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us via our various social media platforms. Business Express returns tomorrow.